Welcome back, folks. So we're going to go ahead and continue it small again. So we're going to be setting up a read-only domain control and see what is an RODC. All right. So watch this. I have a second server up and running. Let me just go ahead and log on. Remember, this was actually a replica, an actual replica, which is writable. That means I could make changes to it. Let me see if I could log in. Is this Udemy? Right? Let's see. So this, I'm going to send it back to a work group. Right? Remember, this became a member server. So I'm just going to send it back to a work group. But it's pointing to the old domain. I was able to log in because it's actually cached. If I reset it, I won't be able to log on. Let me just remove from the domain. So it's actually a standalone server. So I'm trying to make my second server as a read-only domain control. Now, what is an RODC? From the name of it, it applies. It's just a read copy. That means I cannot make changes to it. I normally will have an RODC for a remote site, another location that has a limited number of users, and I don't have a network admin, on staff there. So it's not worth for the company to hire a network admin for, let's say, 5 users. So Microsoft came up with something called a read-only domain controller, which means it's going to be a read copy. I'm allowing specific users to log in with their cached credentials. So that's basically what an RODC is. So that's what I want to be setting up right now. It's not something typical that you'll see, but it's out there. It's good to know everything about Active Directory, I would say so. So let me just show you. Let me go ahead and log on to the system and set this up. And let me put the password and log in here. Give it a moment. Here's my server manager. So I'm going to set up let me just check my DNS configuration first. All right. Let me see. I need to be pointing to server 1. So this is actually server 2. This is normal. Let me just go ahead and check my network settings here. So my DNS should be 128. I just want to verify that. IP version 4, 128. So this actually looks good. Let me go to manage, add roles and features, next, 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 and I'm installing Active Directory domain services all the way through. There we go. And then I'll promote it to become a domain controller, but I'm going to specify that it's an actually read copy that I cannot make changes to it. And that's what I'm going to be looking into. As I said, it's not something as a big percentage that you'll ever be facing in the field. It's for a remote site that I have limited number of users, and I'm going to allow those specific users to log on with their cached credentials, right? That's what it does. And I cannot make changes to a read-only domain controller, which means it's not going to be a global catalog server. It's just a domain controller and it's a read copy, by the way. So that's one thing to know. Let's give it a moment and see how this actually works. Actually, RODC was introduced in Windows Server 2008. I started Active Directory from Windows 2000, and I saw Active Directory in Windows Server 2003, then Windows Server 2008, then Windows Server 2012, 16, 19, and later on 2022. Right? So it has a big history, of course. Every time they come up with a new version, it's like, okay, there's new features. We have something new. We have something better that you can actually work and support your organization and your environment. That's a beauty about Microsoft. I would say so. So let's give this a moment. This should be actually finishing up. All right. Should be done in a few seconds. Then I'll show you how it should be done to set up a read copy. All right. It's good for security, of course, that I don't have a network admin on staff. If somebody steals the domain controller, they can't really do much to it because it's a read copy. Let me promote this to a domain controller. And I have to choose a top option, add a domain controller to an existing domain. And over here, I'm going to be putting udemy.local, right? And change. So I have to have domain admin, right? So I'm going to put udemy/administrator and the password. Then I'm going to continue. Looks like could not be contacted. Okay, something is going on over here. Let me see. Something is going on. This is actually good for troubleshooting. Let me take a look and see my DNS guys. See, that's a problem when you don't configure DNS right. Do you see what's happening? Is DNS correct? 128? Yes, it is. Let me go back to server one. This is actually good. Good for troubleshooting. See, you will have trouble like this when you start putting all the DCs in there. Let me just make sure I have the right number. So this should be 128. Okay, let me just check my network settings over here also. I should be pointing to myself. It could be the loopback. Okay, that's fine. This is okay. Um, Firewall's off. Let me open DNS. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna fix. Watch this. So I'm gonna right click, new zone, next. Leave it as it is, the way I normally do it. And I'm gonna put udemy.local, next, next, and allow it for dynamic updates to generate the records. And I should see all the records. I like to do the following. Reopen services and restart Active Directory domain services just to give it a refresh. And yes, right? Let's give it a moment and see how this actually works for us. So DNS should be fine now. Let's see if this actually fixes the problem. If it doesn't, I want to test it with ping, fully qualified domain name, ping it by an IP address. I want to see what's actually going on over here. Why is it actually failing, right? Folks, so that's all about troubleshooting. As long as we don't actually give up, right? We need to get it actually working. So let's see right now. This should be coming up soon. Okay, so let me just check, refresh over here. This is actually good. Okay, all right, watch this. I'm going to go back to server 2, and I'm going to go next again. Look, it worked. Didn't I tell you that's not the right way to set up DNS? So I'm going to say global catalog, and I'm going to do DNS later. So we can see DNS one more time. And I'm going to be creating another site later. So I'm going to leave it as a read only, right? Let me put a password here. Let's put the password and continue. And look, it tells me accounts are allowed to replicate their passwords to the RODC. See this? There's a group I'll show you, and these ones are actually denied. I could add over here also a list, but whoever's a member of this group can actually do so. Where is this group? Well, let me show you. If I go back to server one and I check Active Directory users and computers, I go to the users container, and right over here, allowed RODC password replication group. See that? Members of this group. So as you see, there's nobody there by default. Members of this group can replicate to the read-only domain controller. See that? That's an actual group. We'll see more about groups, by the way. So for now, let me go back to my second server and just take the defaults and replicate from any. I only have one, so it doesn't matter. I'm not using IFM, which is installed from media, like as a snapshot or a backup. Everything is stays the same. And next, and let's give it a moment. And let's go ahead and click install. Let me just make sure it runs. I'll be pausing the video and we'll come back to it again. So we'll see you folks in a moment. All right. All right. So we're back. And guess what? It didn't actually take long. It only took like a few minutes. Let me just go ahead and log on over here. Looks like the password. Let me just put this again. There we go. All right, let's give it a few seconds so you can see. Okay. Now, if I go back to server one, let me just show you. And I go to the domain controllers and I refresh, I should see the RODC. See that? Read only domain controller, right? So this is actually good. Let me just go back and make sure I could actually open AD over here. Remember, I did not put DNS yet, but I do see Active Directory domain services on the left-hand side over here. So this is actually normal. Then tools, and I'm going to open Active Directory users and computers. But look what it shows me right now. I just want to show you. It's actually connected to server one. So look, I can actually make change because I'm connect server one. But if I right click and say change domain controller and connect to server two, which is the RODC, then click OK, look what it says. So the selected one is read only. I'm not going to be able to make any write operations. This is perfect. So I'm going to click on OK. And right now, everything is grayed out. So I cannot make changes. That's what I wanted to show you. We still have more to cover about the RODC in a future lecture. So we'll see you guys in a moment. All right, guys, later then. Bye.